something happened in my house, there is going to be an investigation that may indict me, and then you say I should be part of the investigation. So I think I share in the sentiments of Mr. Kuchin that there should be an outside watcher who will be doing that investigation. Because if always we allow the military to, investigate themselves, what have been the outcome of several investigations that they've done? I think that is a question that as a country we need to be reflecting on now. There have been a plethora of investigations that they've done, investigating things related to themselves. What have been the outcome? So I believe, and I say the sentiments of Mr. Putin, that this one, it should be done from outside of the military circles. Yes.
And then outside of the military circles, I'll ask you as well, which institution you believe is best placed to do this for us, if you also share in the argument that this should be taken out of their hands. And then we can ask a question as well as to how quickly should this be done? Because the recruit, when do they return as well, is a question they'll be asking.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think, personally, I even think that the investigation, if it's going to be done by an institution which is not the military, it shouldn't even be done by a public institution. We can put together great minds in security, like Mr. Kuchin himself. Great minds. We have great minds, great public figures who are into security, doing great work here in Ghana. We can put them together to do some of these investigations. Because if we employ public institutions to go into this, of course they are their brothers, they are their friends and all that. But then when we put together private minds to go into some of these investigations, if we begin to do some of these things as a country, I believe, Maona, it is going to help bringing on board private people when it comes to issues related to the public. I think it is going to help. And like you said, because the recruitment has not been halted in other regions and it is ongoing, I believe the investigation should be carried out as early as possible. As early as possible, recommendations are made so they know how to streamline the whole process in Accra, so they will be able to prevent some of these things. Because personally, I think it should have even been very, very easy for them to do. Because the numbers that will be massing up there. Why did you then decide to use one location in Accra? Accra is the capital of Ghana. A lot of people are in Accra, and so a lot. They bought your forms. I believe they did an online registration. So a lot of them selected Accra. Could we not have prevented this from happening, Mauna? We could have.
Of the military. One would say that one too many in terms of the incidents which we've witnessed in the last few months, all resulted in 12 deaths. The helicopter, in fact, it's more than 12, 14, right? The helicopter was unfortunately 8, and then we're seeing 6 individuals as well. There's a concern as to what this could mean for them as well. What will be the advice in terms of how operations and subsequent issues are handled going forward? Because anybody watching will say that now you can say they're running on thin ice.
Yes. So, 14 lives, we as a country losing 14 precious lives, like you are saying, is something that needs rethinking. It's something and we should pray, strategizing and all that. And so, yes, they have lost their people. And so dealing with them, sometimes we need to apply, a bit of emotional intelligence here and there and all that when it comes to dealing with them. But your job is your job. Something may happen to you, Mawana, today. Tomorrow, as a journalist, you need to wake up, put yourself together and get to work. The military must get to work. They must get to work. We must not be in the news for some of these things, no, because they are respected people. They have the experience. They have all that it takes for them to do their work as persons. So the thing is that, yes, investigations may be done, but after the investigations, how do we treat the recommendations? How do we treat the recommendation? Is it going to be what we've been doing all this while? We put together investigation team, they do the investigation, they come out with cogent recommendations, and they are left to gather dust. Is that what we are going to do? You know, we cannot do that when it comes to the military, because the security, the safety of all of us are in their hands. And so I believe that we need to begin to look at things in a different way when it comes to the work of the military. Else, you know, it started with 8. Now, people who even want to enter are losing their lives. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring. So, Mawina, like you are saying, we need a rethinking. We need a re-strategization.
Yeah. And let me round up the conversation with you and Mr. Kuti on this particular subject matter. This morning, when I was on my way to the office, I went past Elwak. There were still young people who were coming round and hoping that they could be screened as well. At the heart of it all also is a lack of trust in the ongoing recruitment process. It's been fraught with allegations of people paying monies to receive enlistment into the security service, amongst many other things. And one of the bases upon which people were still insisting on making their way through and all of that, that needs to be cured. How do we approach that particular subject matter in resolving it and helping people appreciate that the process is transparent for all? I'll start off with you, Mr. Kuti.
Well, thank you once again. I thought you were ending with my colleagues, so I was caught off guard. If you look at what is before us now, I think what we need to do as a country, first and foremost, is to take responsibility and then put structures in place after a committee has been put in place to come out with the 4 lines. If you look at our military architecture as things stands now, there was one aspect some of us were not happy about, especially when a victim was on the floor and the colleagues were shouting that he has fallen instead of lending support or helping hand to the person. Yeah. So you see the competitive nature in the Ghanaian youth and the greed in us. Even at the spell of someone losing his or her life, everybody stood by. So look at the energy we use in taking videos and pictures. If we are invested that same energy in helping these people, where would it, I think we would have made a headway. The other aspect of it is this. The military is a very disciplined institution. Did you witness people climbing walls to enter, to be enlisted? That is total indiscipline.
Yeah, I was saying that on that score alone, like whoever persons found culpable doing that should have been
disqualified,
automatically disqualified.
So I think halting the processes in Accra alone does not go far enough. This has become a national tragedy. So all the recruitment processes across the country should be halted. That is my humble plea to the president, so that we will look at the events that led to where we are, then we can put corrective measures in place and proceed. And look, Marina, something came to mind. Do you know at our secondary school we have the cadet corps? What has happened to our cadet corps?
They were promised a quota in military recruitment. I remember that very carefully.
Are we doing that?
That remains to be seen.
So you see that service to your country should be about interest. It should not be for economic reasons. So that is why we are getting the whole recruitment process wrong. I think we should decentralize. Go to our communities, our districts, our regional capitals, and recruit on the quiet. Not the fanfare we do, and because of unemployment challenges, we get this manner of people congregating. But so far as to say that technology exists and let's make use of technology, then we don't encounter some of these things.
I'll come to you now as well, Mr. Entry.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, so like my boss just said, we are in the world of technology now. Artificial intelligence, are we adopting them in our recruitment? One concerning thing is we have digitalization going on. We have the use of artificial intelligence. But you realize that when you look at our security agencies here in Ghana, with our recruitment and even with the training itself, it's just like the old age thing that we used to do. Couldn't we have, by now in 2025, adopted digital, screening and all those things that will prevent people massing up huge numbers? I think it's about time that we adopt some of these things. We have digital application, we have digital form of screening, and something so basic that they could have done appointment-based physical screening. I think they could have streamlined that. Okay, so today we are taking this number of people. Tomorrow we'll be taking this number of people, because they know genuinely that the number that went there yesterday, they couldn't have screened all of them. So I think we should begin to think about appointment-based physical screening. Even smaller institutions, when they open up for job vacancies and all that, they do scheduling of interviews. So you come there at the time that the HR has given you, at the date that the HR has given you. And so if you are going to experience these huge numbers, I think they should begin to think about appointments-based physical screening. And maybe they should also begin to think about multi-agency planning and security coordination. It should, because it's the Ghana Armed Force recruitment, then everything is in the hands of Ghana Armed Force. Because it's Ghana Police recruitment, everything will be in their hands alone. Just look at the number that came there. Just look at the number of recruits that came there. Yeah. So if we begin to adopt multi-agency planning and security coordination, we have police managing maybe access and crowd control. We have a health team there that will provide first aid and ambulance support. We have these people there doing this, doing that. I think in the future, we will be able to prevent some of these things from happening. Thank you.
Ms. Autry, I appreciate you joining us this morning as well. Seth Autry is a criminologist at the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, speaking to us this morning as well.
Marvin, I just have something small to add. You see, our military public relation department is struggling. If you look at their communications yesterday, right, it fell short of standards. And the way the acting public relation director, this captain who is a lady, when she was when she was with Felix Kwachi, and her conduct, posture,
her demeanor,
it didn't show empathy. Look, we are talking about fatalities here. It doesn't matter the numbers, even if it was one. So we need to get that department functioning properly. I've seen a few challenges in their communication of late. And the other thing we need to look at is how we use security jargons when we have disasters, casualties, fatalities, injuries, and death. In her report, because the victims' parents were not yet informed, it was wrong for them to declare dead. Even the pastors and the imams. You see that when there was change of government, a lot of the senior experienced ones were made to go home. Institutional memory. You remember what it led to. And we are talking about the instant case of this lady who is in an acting capacity and the challenges that are coming as a result of the communication that is coming. You are not only communicating to Ghanaians, the international community are watching as well. And you know the new media does not lie.
Mr. Kutin, thank you. We'll go for this quick break, and when we return, we'll delve into matters in relation to the budget, because you have some expectation as to the defense budget as well, which will be read, and we'll get into all of that right after these spot of commercials.
Mega 60%.
The economy, but just before we do that, let me talk to you about how you can get a bit more money into your pocket. The Luckiest is back again, bigger and better, with chances to change your life. 2 easy ways for you to get into the game. The first is that you grab your phone and dial *712#. You choose option 1 to buy a ticket for yourself, or option 2 to buy for someone else. And if you want the system to generate a lucky ticket for you, go with option 1 again. If you prefer to choose your own ticket number, that's option 2. Confirm your payment with Momo and you're in. Now, the online way, head to theluckiestafrica.com and register. Tap on community tickets to either pick your own lucky number or let the system choose one for you. You can as well buy a ticket for somebody else too. And when it's time to pay, you use Momo if you're in Ghana, or pay with your card if you're abroad. One ticket can multiply your money by 500 times, and your whole community could win 10 times and over. This is your golden chance. Hop on, let's get lucky together, because luck is everywhere. And this afternoon, the Finance Minister is expected in Parliament to present the 2026 budget. But quite a lot in terms of what to expect. And Mr. Kuting has been here already. He's going to join us in continuing this conversation on the budget and what it is that we can expect as well. But let me just run through a bit more in terms of some of the numbers as we have it behind us. And in terms of the debt to GDP ratio as well, we've seen a little dance. We started off the year in January at 54.48%. In May, it dropped to 44.41, but it's up to 47.68. We're yet to get the latest in terms of what it is that is happening, and that's on that score. There's a bit more as well we can look at in terms of inflation targeting by the government. When the finance minister read the budgets this year, they had set a target of 11.9%, but as at now, we're around 8.1% of inflation, and so barring any sporadic shift in prices, the government is expected to be in a single digit as the first time since 2022, some parts in 2022. Gold continued to be dominant in terms of our export commodity. Obviously, is bringing us a lot of forex as well, with respect to everything that's been happening. And you see, we're getting extra export value as well. For those of you on Facebook as well as on YouTube following, you get to see that as well. Ghana's exports 52% more than it imports, particularly for this year. But we know that gold is leading the way, and it's not really manufacturing sector which is helping us see a lot of the exports go away. Let me bring in Samson Asaki Awingobet, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association, as well as Nelson Kujo Kwagbeji, is a finance and tax expert, head of finance at Melbourne Capital. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Kuti has been here with us all through. I want to start off with you, Mr. Nelson, as to the expectations. When we look at the key macro figures, it does appear very positive with respect to the performance and the outlook which we've witnessed this year. What is the expectation of the experts on that front going into the 2020-2026 budget reading? Because the minister will provide an update as to what the numbers are.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning once again, and thanks for having me. Well, if you recall, since the assumption of office of this government, the macro fundamentals were not really doing well. This was simply because we have had a challenge in the past regarding our appetite for borrowing. And so that has affected us so much to the extent that we have not been able to perform, up to expectation. However, when this government came on board, we have seen some level of discipline in terms of the performance of the government. Now, when you compare the indicators from 2024, January 2025 to date, you could conclude that most of the indicators are doing very well. Inflation was at 23.8%, and currently inflation is at single digit. If you look at our credit rating, we were almost in a junk status, which means that in terms of capacity and credit worthiness, we were not credit worthy. And so when we went to the international capital market, the rates were very high and we were rejected. But today, as a result of prudent fiscal management and strict decisions taken by the Bank of Ghana, our credit rating has moved to B-, which clearly shows that in terms of our books, we are keeping our books clean. Then also, when you look at our reserve, that actually supports the performance and the stability of the Ghanaian cedi, you realize that the reserve also rose from about $8 billion to about $12 billion, which is more than 4 months of import cover. The standard is normally 3 months of import cover, but the government has been able to achieve way above that. If you also go to the pump, I've always been saying that when you want to test the temperature of an economy, just go to the filling station. When prices are low, it reflects directly in our daily lives. When you go to the pumps now, as at the end of December, the fuel was around 15 cedis per liter, but currently it has gone down significantly. So clearly, even our debt to GDP ratio, as you rightly mentioned, also came down to about 44.5% of GDP. So clearly, purely from a market watcher point of view and looking at the numbers, you realize that this time around we have leadership. And it's something that we have lacked in the past. But going forward, our expectation is that the minister will be telling us policies that the government intend to implement in order to sustain the gains that we have made.
Right.
Because now, when you go to the market, prices have generally reduced. The only problem somebody was telling me yesterday that when you go to the market, goes to the market to buy that rice at a reduced price and buy oil at a reduced price.
She's not reducing the wache price.
Hajia is not reducing the quantity of wache or increasing it.
No, even reducing the price.
Even reducing the price. And so those are the technicalities. But generally speaking, I think prices have generally reduced. And this is as a result of strict monetary stance taken by the Bank of Ghana. In fact, since the beginning of the year, Bank of Ghana has issued plethora list of directives to the market. If you recall, recently, if you go to the bank to withdraw FX directly from your bank account, they will be charging you about 7.5%. What Bank of Ghana was doing in an ordinary man's point of view is to block the flow of FX to Abochi. So now what it means is that you have $10,000 in your account.
Straight $10,000.
Yes, $10,000. You go to the bank will charge you, say, 8%. So it means that, so let's even say the bank are charging you 5%,
right,
which means that whatever you'll be getting will be less. Okay, it will be reduced by that. So you'll be getting effectively 95% of the 10.
Elicit the information for our listeners to understand that when you put your dollar, you are going for your dollar. You are not charged.
No.
It is when it is transferred to
either local
so
transfer.
There's that confusion out there. And I've seen a lot of political spin around.
Okay.
That's why
so,
I did that.
Yeah, so what it means is that if you have $1,000 and you walk to the bank, fill the form, deposit $1,000 into your account. The next day, when you want to go and withdraw, you take your money without any charge.
Cool.
Yes.
But if, assuming I transfer $1,000 from my account to his account, he cannot withdraw over the counter. You understand?
Right.
If you want to withdraw, you will be charged the percentage.
Yes.
Now, the difference is that you will be better off taking the CD equivalent at the bank rate.
Yes.
Than
Abochi.
Losing 5% around roughly 8%.
Exactly. You lose. Per our computation, you lose when you go to Abochi.
Right.
So you realize that this time around we have seen some level of
liquidity.
Yes, liquidity within the FX market.
Within the bank. So you no longer go to the Abochi.
Exactly. So because when you go to the Abochi, they use their own rate.
Right.
They use their own rate.
So if I may come in, so that also help the importer if he put in his currencies and then he wanted to transfer to pay his suppliers. The liquidity is there. In the bank.
Liquidity is there.
Unlike first time,
unlike before.
you keep the money, then
you go and withdraw. Exactly.
Take weeks before you cannot even transfer.
So this time around,
But I had this experience. I was traveling, and I think you are allowed to get $10,000.
yes, that's the minimum.
My bank only get me $2,000.
Maybe at the time they were struggling.
There were bits of challenges at some point. I recall the BOG directing and making some funds available as well to the banks. But Mr. Kwagbaji, you were rounding up on the expectations and explaining the availability of forex, which is helping keep prices stable.
Exactly, that is helping stabilize the city.
Right.
As I did indicate, he as a businessman, he is more interested in the stability of the exchange rate, because tomorrow he's going to place an order in Europe. You understand? And he's using today's exchange rate. But tomorrow, when the exchange rate goes against him, he has to go and look for more CDs, convert into dollars and pay. So businesses simply want stability because stability leads to predictability of cash flows.
Right. I'll come back to you when we begin to briefly have the conversation as to what we must do to sustain this. Because despite all of the positive gains, a lot of economists have asked the question that this approach is not entirely sustainable and we'll need production to be able to back the economy. But let me come to you, Mr. Asake Awingobet. You're the business people. You've seen the play out of the first budget of Mahama II. Your expectations going into the second year as the finance minister readies himself to read today?
Thank you very much. I think the initial one, I guess, chip into Nelson's time. I must say a good morning to your cherished viewers and thanking for your producer for bringing us to this morning. We were on TV this morning, then now we are here again. And the second time I'm meeting my friend, Mr. Kutin, here in live on programs. We do listen to each other or watch each other from far. I must say, so far so good. President Mahama came with seriousness. This is when we were children, they said the second coming of Jesus Christ. So everybody should go to church. So the second coming of John Mahama has really shows that he has learned a lot of experience as a vice president, as a member of parliament, as assemblyman, as a former president, and came back again. John Mahama's second coming have really demonstrated that he's really matured, really had the rich experience, and then have gone around the country for his past 8 years as in opposition, learn and hear what the ordinary citizens actually want. And that was what we saw in his first time budget. Now, another thing, good thing about President Mahama coming back is that over 8 years ago, we used to have a governor of Bank of Ghana and a minister of finance who were lions in their own environment. And nobody crosses anybody. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the monetary policy person were coming out with his own policies without recourse to what is happening at the fiscal policy side. And so we could see that there was that distance, that distortion of informations, and it affected us heavily when they are making fiscal policy. They were not looking at what is happening at the monetary side. Is it good or it's not good for us? Then to the extent that we had inflation of 54, then the governor of Bank of Ghana can face the media and said, bankers, commercial banks, please increase your interest rate because I'm going to up my prime rate. And for that matter, if you don't increase your interest rate, inflation will catch up with you. Yet inflation went as far as to 54. But when we have fiscal policy and monetary policy working together, this is where we see single digit at 8. When we were even expecting it to be 11, it is 8 now here. That is with us here now. That's good policies. That's good decision, prudent management.
In the first time it was 100
exactly. You go to the presidency, you could see the number of presidential staffers cut short. It's not like it used to be. So quite clearly, where I sit, you see prime rate has come down from 28 to 21.5. You've seen the Ghana reference rate has also come down as well, which commercial banks are using in determining interest rate for business community. So everything, you go to the market, you saw how the Minister of Finance diffused the minds of everybody, moved to the market the first time of his budget in March 11th, 2025. You remember? Yeah. Before the budget was presented,
he's been going around the markets as well.
And as I speak, this budget again, he has already gone to, the Takoradi. He visited Takoradi, then he went to the market. I'm sorry, it was the Kotokraba market, right? One of the market.
Yes. No, it was a Takoradi market.
Kotokraba market is in Cape Coast, right?
Yes.
So he went to the Takoradi market, and you could see how the market women, they understand the economics. They confronted him and said, look, sugar bag used to cost this, now it is this. A local of sugar used to cost this, now this is the figure. 5 kilo rice used to cost this, now this is the figure. And then they made the minister understand that it is the safer. You remember one of them were quick to say, do something about the safer for us. So that is how evolving, that is how eye-opening, that is how everybody's in any corner. That those that you think that it is the people who wear the tie. Sorry, not because of my very good friend that's wearing tie. Are the people who wear coat, are the people who understand, not because of Nelson's wearing coat here. But that's the reality. You think that those who are in the farmer doesn't understand anything, the market woman doesn't understand anything. But hey, today everybody's eyes are open. Because of a certain government has come with policy direction, with policy that they've gone to speak to the people. They hear what the people want, and they brought a policy or they brought a budget responding to the request and the needs of Ghanaians. As we speak, prices of goods is stable. Nobody's making noise. Have you heard anybody making noises?
But some of us are asking the question that goods have not reduced in the manner in which they should have.
Good. So I made it clear.
The spare parts.
Yes. So I made it clear. No. So I made it clear that yes, if you go to the market, don't stand at one shop alone. If you go to the market, move from one shop to another shop. You will definitely get a shop that reduces the prices.
They are unionized.
Some have, yes, not get unionized. We know the politics in the market, especially when you go to Obusuka, they will tell you that the people there, they don't believe in President Mahama. Their trust is not in President Mahama. And so majority of them were if not were supported, but it was they got their businesses during a certain regime, and so they don't care if my man even bring $1 to one city. They don't care the price; they will still consider the price the way they want. But the truth of the matter, those same people go to the port and they are paying duty at the rate that they are seeing. Even when their government was in power, they were struggling in paying duty. But today, if you go to the port, everybody. So prices of goods should come down. That's the automatic. All of us should be asking. Prices of goods. If you refuse to reduce the prices because somebody is getting the truth of the matter is that it's not by lip services. It is the reality policy that we are all seeing it. So if the policy is reflecting, you should reduce your prices. So if you do this, you come back, you are fighting Nigerians. Then how do I come to support you? You do this, you are fighting Chinese person. How do I come to support you?
Because they have reduced their prices.
Exactly. To respond to the government policy. So if someone sit at Guta, sit at Abusoka or Kase or Katamanto or sit at Edum or Swame and refuse to reduce the prices, he and somebody bring the goods, then the government must protect that person who's reducing the price, isn't it? So that because we saw there was an advert like that. Then
the city is performing, and so they were reducing sales.
Exactly. So I can tell you, the first budget of Atufoshin really show positive signs, and that's why everybody is asking that what will come, what are we expecting? I have made it clear when we were engaged with the Minister of Finance for their budget hearing. I've said that the COVID levy should go, isn't it? Yes. COVID levy should go. We have no COVID here. Even in fact, countries that were heavily affected by the recorded high death of COVID experience did not introduce any COVID. Yet Ghana we introduced COVID. Yet Ghana we introduced something even at the airport. People were whole from holding areas. They have to pay so much money, dollars for one person to take it away in this country. So someone said no, COVID should go so that we can reduce prices. 2% special import levy should go. We are saying that it should give us a fixed rate at the port. And indeed, of course, someone spoke about tax exemption narratives. I think you are the one who used the rate of free zone or so.
Yeah.
Yes, somebody come to free zone, you give him all the tax incentives. And within 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, this person
they fold up
and collect all the money and then go. Someone also repatriate all the profits, especially those who are mining our gold here. So when they were upping what was that three taxes that
was put on the gold sector?
Yes. When they were increasing it, and I saw Mineral Commission or is it Energy, one of the associations,
the communities within the mining sector, they were
complaining.
They were being
but the point here is they take the gold out, they sold the gold, and they bring only less than 5% back, and that is just for their operations.
Right. Let me come to Mr. Kuting as we try and begin the conversation as to what can be done to sustain. And you had something to share with respect to the defense budget. That's a tangent you're on before you also speak to what you'd expect in terms of can be done to ensure that this positive growth continues to stay.
Yes, Marina. Let me welcome my colleagues. My good brothers. In fact, the points he raised were very relevant points. I think what government need to do is to set some form of task forces for price compliance. It cannot be the case that the dollar had gone down at the point of entry of our goods and services at the ports. The duty has gone down. Prices at the pump has gone down.
Yes.
That affects our transport fares and everything. Yet the cost of food is still expensive in our market. It's not acceptable that you go to a shop and they are selling one bottle of water for 2 cedis. You enter another shop,
you say 5 cedis.
And it's 5 cedis. It's unacceptable. So government should find a way of looking at tax forces that could bring price compliance.
So you miss Kitty Amon, right? If Kitty Amon were to be the Minister of Trade today, you would have gone to Parliament and said, get me price control law.
Yes, I think that...
And Ghanaian would have supported him.
I think that when it gets to...
The timing was good.
When it gets to certain levels that people are not willing to comply, you use some of these things. And look, Atufossin, I think he has won the hearts of many of us.
Sure.
They trust the president really repose in him. He has proven his worth.
Absolutely.
And as a young man, I should highly with him. I want to commend him. I'm just praying that they can sustain it. Then it doesn't spill over like we saw in the previous government when we had things going on. They took credit when it went haywire. They were blaming COVID.
And they ran away.
COVID and Ukraine. So you see, when it comes to the economy, as a security analyst, I don't want politics in there.
Right.
Because if the economy is good, everybody benefits.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter your political colonization. So now, these are my expectations on the security sector in terms of the budget that we read today. In fact, I'm looking at the budget to address the ECOWAS security architecture collapse. You see that as a result of what is happening in the Sahel, with Burkina, Niger, Mali going the Sahel state, there is basically nothing that is being done within the ECOWAS subsector in terms of security. Share intelligence is down. Even what happened in Cote d'Ivoire, the sham elections that happened there, what happened in Togo, where the president metaphors into something else.
The president of the Council of Ministers.
Council of Ministers. Which means it perpetuates
sure.
So you see, we are now on our own. So I need to see a budget that will reflect that. So apparently I'm talking about an increase in our security budget. If you look at the defense sector, I think in 2024 it was 0.39% of GDP. That falls far below international standard, even by our original comparison. I also want to see the terrorism, the Galamsey terrorism nexus, which requires the coordination of the Ministry of Interior, Defense, National Security, and the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. You understand? We want to see substantial amount of resources devoted to that sector, because Galamsey has now become the Waterloo for our fight against violent extremism and, by extension, terrorists. And if you look at what is happening around our Galamsey site, it presents serious existential threat to everybody.
Sure.
So we must devote enough resources in the fight against terrorism. If you look at what NAMOS is doing now, I think the government need to review the operations of NAMOS.
Right.
In terms of logistics, they don't have enough logistics. And I also have a challenge. Why things like that, we always want to have a national task force when we could have even used the military to deal with these things
outright.
Look, if the president had given the chief of staff directive,
the chief of defense staff,
the CDS, that look, you use your COs. We don't want these extremists or terrorists on our forest reserves and then on our water body. I tell you, the fight against Galamsey will not even last 1 month.
Right.
So, but because of the pull and push factors of politics behind it, I also want to see, see the Elwak tragedy, it directly connects to security, Mawina. And I think that economic insecurity drives both desperate recruitment rushes like we saw and vulnerability to radicalization. So I want to see substantial resources being pushed towards intentional policies into job creation, especially the private sector.
Absolutely.
You see that government alone cannot employ the kind of unemployment levels we have in this country.
They have never been able to do
even
that.
If you look at advanced countries, if you look at advanced countries, they have not been able to do that.
It's about the environment being created.
Give the enabling environment to private sector players to act. And it shouldn't necessarily be foreigners. That's the mistakes we make. Let's help our own grown private people. At least whether they perform well or otherwise, everything remains here.
Absolutely.
The foreigners over a period like you mentioned,
they'll take the money.
They'll take the money away.
Mr. Kwagweji, let me come to you on what we can do to sustain, and then I'll come to you and then we wrap up.
All right. Now, as I did indicate, you cannot base your economy entirely on the exportation of commodities. The reason being that
we have gold leading the way for us now.
But that is not sustainable because there are volatilities that are inbuilt there. We know that gold is normally resistant to geopolitical tension and other economic issues. However, building our confidence and economic model on commodity export is not the best. In fact, we have tried this since 1957 and it has not worked. So that we move away from that colonial economic model to a model that is actually being sustained by export-driven products. And I am happy that if you look at the tone of the president, right from the time they came to power, it has been about, the manufacturing sector. It has been about agribusiness. In fact, that actually informed the decision to actually add agribusiness to the Minister for Trade and Industry. And just as my brother said, if you want to sustain your growth, because it is the growth that will create the jobs, government alone cannot do it. And so reason why we were happy when the government launched the 24-hour economy, that was supposed to capacitate the private sector. That was supposed to incentivize the private sector. And so going forward, in order to sustain all the gains that we have made, there are three things that we have to do. Number one, we have to continue with our fiscal prudence policies. We have seen that the all over the place kind of expenditure that we witnessed in the past, this current finance minister has been very, very prudent in terms of expenditure. You get to know that most of the expenses are targeted. They are destined to solve a particular problem. And so in order to sustain the gains, we need to continue with the fiscal prudence. Number two, Bank of Ghana must also continue to balance its fiscal monetary stance, the strict monetary stance, with the growth agenda of the government. Because if your monetary policy rate is so high, it will be factored into the Ghana reference rate that the bank will use as a benchmark for their pricing of their loan portfolio. And so it is expected that the banks will also reduce their lending rate so that businesses can go and borrow. And so we need to continue to balance the strict monetary stance with that of growth. Because if lending rates are high, you cannot expand your economy. It will be difficult to go to the bank to go and borrow at the rate of 25%. And so it's meaning that when you take 1 million cedis of loan from a bank, at the end of the year, you should be paying about 250,000 cedis. No. Interest rate has to come down. And so we expect Bank of Ghana to also maintain its strict policy stance. In fact, the principal role of the Bank of Ghana is to maintain currency and price stability.
Right.
With regards to price, we are talking about inflation, and which has reduced to single digit, and which we at Meban Capital, we have projected an inflation will go down further to about 6% before the end of the year. So these are the areas that I think government needs to work on in order to maintain and consolidate the gains we have made. We need to change our economic model. Then again, another issue that has been a problem over the years has to do with our tax revenue. You see, increasing your tax rates to rake in more revenue for the government is always not the best approach. Ghanaian economy is largely informal. About 70% of our economy, they are in the informal sector. But the question that you ask yourself is how or what percentage of the 70 actually pays tax? When you go to the Hajia who is selling wache just in front of TV3, do you think Hajia pays tax on the wache that she sells?
It's a huge conversation. I think some weeks ago, the chief of staff was at the GRA event where they said they've introduced a new system which will allow as many people as possible to pay tax.
Exactly.
A lot of the time, we get to hear about new innovation which is expected to expand the tax bracket, but nobody ever checks whether or not these are eventually work and that we can see the real-time value of these innovations, which sometimes we pump a lot of money into.
I agree entirely with you. And so the only people who can have that data as to what has been the result of a certain policy implementation is the department that is directly in charge of the implementation or the execution. And so in this case, the Ghana Revenue Authority. So I think that we should expand more of the tax base, expand the tax bracket, bring as much people as possible, embark on a tax education to rake more people into, because once you are able to raise enough domestic revenue to meet your expenditure, then there is no need to go and borrow. Now, anytime you look at the structure of government expenditure, you get to know that interest payment alone is more than allocation for capital expenditure. Okay, interest payment alone on the loans that we have borrowed or the credit that we have taken is more than capital expenditure. Reason why, as a Ghanaian, I feel proud that this time around the president is doing something innovative. What is the president doing? He is allocating every year about 30 billion Ghana cedis towards the infrastructure development, most especially in the road sector. Now, when you are in Accra, you think that is Ghana, but when you go outside Accra, you see that the road network is very, very poor. And so when we are allocating about 16 billion for interest payment and you are allocating 7 billion cedis for just your capital expenditure, then it means you are not growing. You understand? So the big push agenda is clearly an innovative way, in addition to the capital expenditure, to expand the infrastructure base of the country. So going forward, the gains have been made. The economy is enjoying stability. Inflation is down, currency is stable, gross international reserve has gone up. We expect, a lending rate to come down so that businesses can go borrow and grow the economy, for the that growth to also create the needed jobs.
Final words to you as well, just briefly, so that
final word is that I have confidence in Atufoshin. He has one trademark. One of them is going to the market, listen to market women first time, and then the second time gone back again before he sent his economic and fiscal policy. I am very optimistic that, having heard from other quarters, we Ghanaians is going to enjoy this Christmas under John Dramani Mahama second budget for the 2026.
Interesting. Thank you very much as well, Mr. Kuti. You have any last words before we run out of the
we'll continue to pray for Ghana and let our nationalistic spirit be at its best. At this point, let's put politics aside and build our country. Kudos to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his finance team. We hope to hear good news today. And to my dear Ghanaians, let's be patriotic. Let's be patriotic.
I have not heard of economic management team. I have not heard any names, but I'm seeing the reality. The work is done.
Oh,
It's now doubling in there.
My appeal is to us as Ghanaians.
Yeah.
Let's allow the reduction in prices to trickle down to the ordinary
and reflect for everybody.
We say we are
enjoy.
Christians, we are Muslims. We go to church, we go to the mosques. Let that spirit reflect in us, and
Final words from you as well.
Well, I would just want to encourage the government to continue what they are doing. The credit rating has gone up. Most of the indicators from purely a financial point of view clearly shows that the economy is actually recovering and it is stable. And this is the time to grow. What happened yesterday at LWAC, just as the other experts are saying, is a clear indication that unemployment actually poses a serious threat to our economy. And so the budget should be focused more on growth and job creation. Not only jobs, but jobs that are quality, jobs that are decent, and jobs that are sustainable. Thank you.